My ex-wife left me and our kids to find real love, started a new family, and then asked me to pay for summer camp for her husband's kids. I brought her to court and now she is begging. Okay, guys, get rid of it for obvious reasons. My ex would go crazy if she saw this. But I've been holding back for years, and I'm done being kind. Okay. So, I'm 38 years old, a man, divorced, and have 2 great kids who are practically my whole world. My ex-wife, on the other hand, seems determined to make co-parenting feel like a hostage situation. I just can't take any more of her foolishness. But first, let me go back a little so it all makes sense. I was having a relatively easy life when I was 27. I had a good job, went to the gym, and hung out with my friends. I was simply minding my own thing. I met my ex Brittany at a barbecue my friend Phil gave one day. She was across the yard laughing at something, and she looked like she had just come out of a commercial. I told a stupid joke about how the burgers were extra crispy, and she really did laugh. I thought I was being smooth. We got married 8 months later. I know, looking back, it's clear. It wasn't so horrible at first. Not great, but not terrible either. Then she got pregnant with our son, Declan, and I was very happy. Like really the happiest I've ever been. I can vividly remember the first time I held him. I stood there with the little kid wrapped up like a Chipotle burrito, trying not to cry. He had my eyes and her nose. Those first several days were crazy. I'd work all day and then go home and work the night shift so she could sleep. Declan just wouldn't calm down one night. For over 3 hours, I went in circles around the living room and sang everything I could think of. Finally, the guy passed asleep on my chest, and I just stood there. I didn't want to wake him up or move, and to be honest, I didn't care that I had to go to work in the morning. I thought, yes, this is where I should be. But things changed after the first several weeks. Brittany suddenly changed. She got distant and started to see problems with everything I did. I'd come home from working extra hours to help pay for the baby, and she wouldn't even look up from her phone. She'd say, "You didn't fold the laundry right. The infant has been crying all day, and you just got here. It must be good to get away." I would have been standing there, tired from a 10-hour shift, and wondering what the heck had happened to us. I still tried. I made breakfast before work, worked nights with Declan, and tried to schedule date nights. Nothing worked. There was this one night, maybe 3 months after Declan was born. I arranged this whole surprise for her. I asked my mom to watch the kid, arranged reservations at the restaurant where we had our first date, and even purchased her this jewelry that she had been wanting before she became pregnant. I was excited because I thought this would be the turning point for us. I came home early with flowers and told her to get ready. This is what she said. She sighed as if I had just ordered her to climb Mount Everest. "I don't want to go out. Can't we just have pizza?" I attempted to hide how upset I was. I thought it would be wonderful to get some time alone. Mom is already on her way to see Declan. She rolled her eyes. "Okay, give me half an hour." She spent an hour scrolling through her phone while only half-heartedly getting dressed. Dinner was very uncomfortable. She mostly texted and didn't talk much. She responded, "Thanks," when I gave her the necklace. She was as excited as someone who had just gotten a grocery receipt and requested to go home since she was exhausted. I recall driving home in solitude, the jewelry box burning a hole in my pocket, and wondering if this was simply a phase or if my marriage was already over. Then, just as Declan was turning 1, she got pregnant again. That's when things really became bad. She would text all the time, but when I stepped in, she would turn the phone over. This is a classic case of dubious behavior. When I asked her who she was talking to, she got angry. "What? I can't have any friends now? You are really bossy. I wasn't born yesterday." Something wasn't right. Every day, the pit in my stomach grew. One night, I woke up to check on Declan and saw the light from her phone in our dark bedroom. It was 2 in the morning. Who the hell sends a text at 2 a.m.? Besides someone you like? I didn't say anything, but I started to pay closer attention. She'd take her phone to the restroom and go outdoors for fresh air during dinner. All the usual indications. Things got really bad when our daughter Zara was born. Brittany's phone rang one night when she was in the shower. A guy named Jason at work sent me a message. "I miss chatting to you too." Not very subtle. No doubt about it. cheating emotionally. I didn't confront her immediately away. I just watched. She started to draw away even more, always on her phone and cold as ice. I brought it up one night after the kids were asleep. Something isn't right. We don't converse to each other. We don't get along. It seems like we're just living together now. She didn't even move. I'm sleepy. I had 2 of your babies in 2 years. Sorry, I'm not in the mood to be a cheerful wife. I told them this wasn't about playing. It's about basic respect. She lost it. You should have thought about that before you got me pregnant again. I just looked at her. We both wanted Zara. Whatever. I'm going to sleep. And just like that, the switch turned off. I was done looking for something that wasn't there anymore. I kept showing up for the kids and taking care of what needed to be done. But I stopped expecting anything from her. She wasn't my partner anymore. She was just someone I lived with. And to be honest, the quiet was better than the incessant insults and cold shoulders. For months after Zara was born, I got home from work to find divorce papers on the kitchen table. No talking, no trying to get help, simply I'm done. She stood there like a victim and said, I deserve better than this. You're cold and not available. I wanted to yell. I wanted to show her the 57 texts I'd sent her in the last month that hadn't been responded. They all asked if she was okay, if we could talk, or if there was anything I could do. I wanted to say that I was the one who got up with the infant at 3 a.m. while she was too sleepy. But as I looked at my kids, Declan, Barely, and newborn Zara, I knew that a bad divorce would surf them up. That day is still very clear in my mind. It's quiet in the kitchen, and I have the divorce paperwork. Not enough noise. Declan is on the floor putting together something with his blocks. Zara is asleep in her swing, and I'm just standing there gazing at the end of the life I thought I was constructing. But to be honest, I was already out. I had been gone emotionally for a while. I looked at her and asked, So, is there someone else, Jason? She didn't flinch, just said, This isn't about another person. It's about us not working. It wasn't a denial. I knew then what I'd suspected for months. So, I swallowed my pride and agreed to a 50-50 split of everything. Assets, custody, no child support since we both had decent jobs. I remember signing those papers feeling like I just cut out part of myself and handed it over. The hardest part was moving out, setting up a little place nearby and sitting alone that first night while my kids slept across town. I sat on the floor of my new apartment, just a mattress, a TV on a milk crate. I scrolled through pictures of the kids on my phone until the battery died, then just sat in the dark, wondering how the hell my life had imploded so quickly. Those early single dad days were brutal. I'd be pumped to see the kids, then instantly overwhelmed juggling a toddler and a baby. First time Zara got sick, I panicked and called my mom at 2 a.m. She calmed me down, told me it was just a fever. I stayed up all night watching her breathe. By morning, she was fine, and I knew I could handle this. The custody exchanges were awkward. In the beginning, we'd meet in the parking lot of a Starbucks, barely making eye contact as we transferred car seats and diaper bags. Declan would cry sometimes when I had to leave him, which effing gutted me. Zara was too young to understand what was happening, but Declan knew something was wrong. Why don't you live with us anymore, Daddy? He asked one day, his little face serious. How do you explain divorce to a 2-year-old? Mommy and Daddy love you very much, but we decided we can be better parents living in different houses. He thought about this for a minute. Can I have 2 rooms? Kids, man. Resilient as hell. About a year after our divorce was final, Brittany met a new guy named Derek. Surprisingly, she didn't run to Jason, which basically showed me her true color. This dude Derek walks around like he's God's gift to parenting despite being a part-time marketing consultant, which really means he works like 20 hours a week while Brittany pays most of the bills. They got married when Declan was 4 and Zara was just 2. And suddenly my kids had a stepsister, Lyra, who's the same age as Declan. Then they popped out another kid, Nathan, who's now 7. The first time I met Derek was at a preschool drop-off. I was helping Declan hang up his backpack when this dude in an Ed Hardy shirt in 2016 seriously walks up with Brittany. Hey, you must be the ex, he said, extending his hand with this smirk that made me want to punch him. I'm Derek. I shook his hand and kept it short. I wish I could say the same. He chuckled too loudly. Well, the kids seem great. Declan has been showing Lyra how to use Legos to build things. That's nice, I answered. But the way he said it, like he was already claiming my boy, made my jaw clench. I kept it pleasant for Declan's sake. Declan has always been good at sharing, I said, messing up his hair. I still remember the first time I dropped the kids off at their new home after their wedding. Brittany had put a wooden sign on the front door that said, "The Johnson-Ellis Blended Family," with all their names painted in different colors. My last name is nowhere to be discovered. It's also my kid's last name, which is funny. I didn't say anything. Just another conflict that isn't worth it. When Declan came home one weekend and casually brought up Daddy Derek, it really hurt. Derek, my dad, said he would teach me how to ride a bike. He told us when we were eating dinner. I almost choked on my pizza. Who's Derek's dad? He answered, Mom's husband. Like I was stupid for asking. He told me to name him Daddy Derek since he is like my other dad now. I had to go outside for a minute to calm down. I kept my voice light when I got back. You already have a dad, buddy. What about me? It might be easier to understand if you just called him Derek. Declan shrugged his shoulders. Mom told me to call him Daddy Derek because it's polite. I texted Brittany that night. Can we talk about this Derek thing? I don't like it. An hour later, she replied. Declan came up with the idea. Don't make a big deal out of this. I knew that was undersir, but what could I do? Make my kid call this guy something else? That would only make things worse for him. So I bit my tongue again. At the same time, I worked hard to make sure my kids had all they needed at my house. I got 2 promotions at work, saved a lot of money, and was able to buy a small but decent house in a good school area. I spent my whole life making sure Declan and Zara had a stable home and chances to grow. Derek, this guy had the nerve to make passive-aggressive comments every time we were at the same school event. I'm standing behind the science fair projects one night when the parents come. Declan made this awesome robot arm that could pick up marbles. And Derek comes up next to me. Hey dude, how's the new car? It must be good to have all that extra money when you only have to take care of 2 kids. I was driving a 5-year-old Honda that I had bought used, but it was fine. I said, it gets me from A to B, attempting to be polite. He went on to say that some of us know what sacrifice means for a blended family, pointing to his designer watch, which was obviously worth more than my car payment. I just left. These things happened all the time, but I stayed calm. I volunteered to be a chaperone for the kids' field trip. Derek did too. He talked loudly for 6 hours about their planned trip to Hawaii, the new gaming system he bought, all the kids, and how hard yet gratifying it is to raise 4 kids. When he talked to other parents, he kept calling Declan and Zara our kids, which made me quite angry. He sat across from me during lunch while the kids played. He observed, you know, the kids really struggle with the back and forth, as he unwrapped his pricey organic sandwich. Brittany and I have been thinking it might be better for them to have one stable home base and just visit you on weekends. I almost choked on my water. Excuse me? He raised his palms. Just thinking about what's best for the kids, man. I added, no offense, but my custody arrangement isn't up for discussion, especially not with you. I kept my voice low so the kids wouldn't hear. He shrugged his shoulders. Just a thought. Brittany says you've always placed the kids first, so I thought you'd want to know that they're having a hard time. I had to fight with everything I had not to flip the table. Instead, I got up and went to hang out with my kids, who didn't seem to be having any trouble at all as they laughed and played on the jungle gym. The true trouble occurred when Brittany thought I should act like all of her kids were mine. It all started when Tiny asked me to bring birthday gifts for Derek's daughter when I picked up my kids. Don't you think it's rude to bring gifts for Declan and Zara when Lyra is right there? She would say things like, you're a monster for not buying gifts for a kid who isn't yours. Then she suggested that I take Lyra with me when I went out with my kids on the weekends. The kids get confused when you just take 2 of them. She'd keep saying it. Now they are all brothers and sisters. At first, I attempted to be diplomatic. I'm delighted they're close, but I don't get much time with Declan and Zara, so I want to focus on them. She didn't like that. Wow. That's a great way to make a female feel left out. Very grown up. This guilt-tripping __ carried on for years. I stood my ground, but I was still seen as the bad guy. When I picked up my kids, they would tell me about how their dad Derek bought them all tickets to Disney or how they went on a ski trip as a family. During our drive home one weekend, Declan was strangely silent. He finally told me what was wrong when I inquired. Last night, Mom and Derek talked about you. They didn't know I was there. My stomach fell. What did they tell you, buddy? He turned to look out the window. Derek remarked, "You're selfish and don't care about the whole family. You just want to look like the fun dad." I was so angry that my knuckles turned white as I held the driving wheel. That's not right, Declan. More than everything, I love you and Zara. He responded softly, I know. I told Mom that was mean, and she told me not to talk about private things again. I had to stop because I was so angry. I took a big breath, turned around, and looked my son in the eye. I never want you to feel stuck in the middle, Declan. You can always talk to me about things that make you angry. Okay? No secrets. He nodded, and I could tell he was relieved. Okay, Dad. The little digs at me for not being part of their true family made me angry, but I never said anything to the kids about it. They didn't need to be in the middle of adult __. Brittany's financial demands got crazier as the kids got older. Declan and Zara both had a lot of potential as students when they were 7 and 5. I looked into it and found Westridge Academy, a great private school that focuses on STEM. The cost of tuition was high, $12,000 per child each year, but the education they would acquire was worth it. I told Brittany that I would pay for all of our kids' education if they went to an exclusive STEM school. Instead of being happy, she instantly made it a guilt trip about Lyra. Said it wouldn't be fair if all three didn't go and labeled it divisive. She tried to make me pay for Derek's kid as well. I stuck to my guns and told her I would pay for Declan and Zara, but the rest was up to them. She was really angry, but guess what? They still signed Lyra up with money from Derek's parents. These talks happened all the time. Every present, every chance, and every expense I gave my kids turned into a fight where I was required to do the same for their bonus siblings. Last spring, something finally pushed me over the edge. By the way, my kids, who are extremely smart, got into a very exclusive tech camp in Colorado called Tech Future. Only 40 youngsters from all over the country got admission. 40. And my two were among them. Declan is a computing genius who made his own Minecraft mods when he was 9. And Zara is a robotics whiz who won the state championship with a robot she made that sorts waste. I was so proud that I almost burst. They worked really hard on the applications, staying up late to do demo projects, write essays, and do everything else. I still recall the day we sent in the applications. We were sitting at my kitchen table. Declan checks for mistakes with a lot of worry. Zara was dancing in her seat as she uploaded videos of her robot working. Dad, what if we don't get in? Declan asked with his finger over the submit button. We will try again next year. But I told him I thought he could do it. A month later, when the acceptance emails came, we were gathered at my house. After supper, I let them look at my email. People probably heard the yells of joy 3 blocks away. Zara did a victory dance on the couch, while Declan kept reading the email over and over again as if he couldn't believe it. I promised them new laptops for camp and took them out for ice cream. Their joy spread to everyone around them. As a parent, it was one of those times when all the hard work felt worth it. The program cost $7,800 for each child, plus flights and supplies. Almost $20,000 total. I didn't even think about it. Since the divorce, I've been saving just for their schooling. I drove an old car, lived in a smaller house than I could afford, and skipped vacations so they might have chances like this. When I told Brittany about it during our monthly co-parenting check-in, her reaction told me everything. She didn't say congratulations or seem happy for them. Her calculating glance made my stomach plummet. So, Lyra is also interested in robotics, she remarked, entirely ignoring what our kid had done. Yeah, I said, already knowing where this was headed. I believe it would be great for all 3 of them to have this experience together. I took a long sip of my coffee before I said, Brittany, this isn't a trip for the whole family. Declan and Zara got into a tough program. She leaned forward and spoke very quietly. There has to be a method for Lyra to get in, too. You should pay for Declan and Zara, therefore you should cover it. I thought she was joking, so I laughed. She wasn't. You want me to pay approximately $8,000 for your husband's child to go to camp? I inquired simply to be sure I wasn't having a stroke. She kept saying that our kids are siblings. When you make these distinctions, it hurts people. No. But what's bad is teaching children that their accomplishments don't matter and that they deserve stuff they didn't work for. I shot back, and her face got hard. Do you really not care about how they get along with their sister? Because of you, they're going to hate each other. If you keep attempting to take away wonderful times they earned, I replied firmly, they will hate you. She jumped up and grabbed her purse. This isn't up for discussion, she said. We'll see what happens. It's not unusual for kids to express they don't want to go without Lyra. Are you really going to use our kids to get what you want? She smiled at me with no warmth. I'm only stating that families should stay together. It's possible that you've forgotten what that implies. My hands were shaking when I exited the coffee shop. Not because I was scared, but because I was stopping myself from flipping the table. The nerve, guy. Declan called the next day and was upset. Brittany had informed him that they shouldn't go to camp if Lyra couldn't. A classic guilt trip. I told him that he and Zara had worked hard to get where they were and shouldn't give it up. He still wanted to leave. I just needed to hear that it was okay. I texted Brittany to stop messing with me after the call. She sent a thumbs down emoji back. Very grown up. If you thought that was the end of it, you don't know Brittany. 2 days after the camp talk, I was at work doing a great job on a presentation I'd been working on for weeks when I got a text from Derek. We need to talk about how you helped with the family's housing predicament. I almost choked on my coffee. What the hell? I didn't pay attention to it. Thought it was some kind of power play that would pass. But when I picked up the kids that Friday, Brittany gave me a printed spreadsheet and a letter, like if we were in the 1990s or something. I looked at the spreadsheet as the kids got their luggage. In short, it was showing off half of their $2,400 rent. She added that my nicer area was making things unfair for Declan and Zara, and that I should pay half of their rent to keep things fair. I told her again that my house, my money, and their living situation were none of my business. She insisted it was for the kids' sake, as if I hadn't given up everything to offer them stability. Then Derek came in like her backing singer and had the nerve to claim that a true man would take care of the whole family. In that moment, I understood that this wasn't about the kids. They wanted me to pay for their lives. A wave of heat went through me. This guy is so rude to question my manhood while also asking for my money. I had never been in a fight as an adult, but at that time I understood why people fight. You know what a real man does, Derek? I remarked as I got closer. Instead of asking his wife's ex-husband to help pay for his lifestyle, he pays his own bills. Derek's cheeks turned red. Be careful, guy. The kids are close by. Then I said, maybe don't start unnecessary during pickup. And just so you know, a true man doesn't use kids as pawns to get money. Brittany got in between us. This isn't blackmail. It's parenting together. But it's evident that you simply care about yourself. I laughed. A real, this is so silly laugh. Brittany, co-parenting doesn't mean I pay your bills. It implies we both look after our kids. Our kids. Not Derek's son. Not your new child. Zara and Declan. I told the kids to go. I could see Brittany and Derek watching from the door as we drove away. Both of them seemed angry that their little trap hadn't succeeded. I held on to the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles became white. Are you okay, Dad? Zara queried from the back seat, and I had to smile. Yes, kiddo. I'm just thinking about what movie we should see tonight. I sat on the back porch with a beer after the kids went to bed and felt like I was going mad. I called my friend Phil, who had been through a divorce like mine. Am I being a underscore here, dude? Should I give them money to aid them? Phil didn't think twice. Underscore. You pay for your kids' school, health insurance, and other costs. You are in charge of that. It's their job to pay their debts. But what if the kids are unhappy because their house isn't as nice? Are they in pain? Do they have their own beds, food, and clothes? Yes, of course. Then they're okay. Kids don't worry about how big a room is, dude. They want to be loved and safe. Don't let them trick you. He was right, of course. But the guilt trips were so continuous and never-ending that I sometimes wonder if I'm crazy. Was I being self-centered? Was I hurting my kids by not going along with this fantasy of a big, happy family? I was up half the night until I remembered that having limits doesn't make me a horrible dad. I had no idea that this was just the beginning of what was to come. I went to what I believed was a routine parent-teacher conference a week after the Rent farce. I brought coffee and was eager to hear how well my kids were doing. Instead, I walked into a trap. Brittany, Derek, and the counselor all had serious looks on their faces. Brittany turned it into a surprise intervention, it turns out. She said that my inconsistent parenting was hurting the kids emotionally because I only take my own kids on trips, won't pay for Lyra, and live in a nicer place. In short, they were blaming me for not paying for their dream of a happy family. I couldn't believe it when Derek pulled out his phone and started showing me pictures from their family trip to San Diego. Look at how delighted all 4 kids are together. But when he only takes Declan and Zara, it makes it seem like they're not together. My face was burning. Every part of me was telling me to leave. But I made myself stay. Brittany went in and acted like she was on stage. She said Declan came home crying because he felt bad that Lyra couldn't go to camp. It's all made up. The kid had been going crazy about it for weeks. Then Derek said, Zara's been acting out because I treat her differently than her siblings. This is the same person who doesn't even know her schedule but suddenly believes he knows how she feels. That's when I got through the cacophony. I told them the truth. There are no siblings at my house for Zara. She has a brother named Declan. That isn't hard to understand. When they signed the divorce papers, they agreed to that agreement. Brittany fired out, You refuse to acknowledge their blended family reality. I reminded her that their reality is 2 households. That's what they wanted. That's how we live. Then Derek leaned in and said, You're just scared because they have a whole family with us. But punishing the kids because you're insecure isn't right. I looked him in the eye. You mean the family where you tell my son you're stuck with him? The one where my daughter feels bad for getting into a program she worked hard for? That's your idea of a complete family. Brittany started to gasp like I had just insulted her bloodline. I turned it off right away. Keep it. I've read the messages. The kids told me about it. This has nothing to do with mental health. It's about you attempting to control the story and my money. They kept going back to the same script, acting like victims and making me look like the bad guy for not going along with their ideal of one big happy family. Brittany took off the mask completely when that didn't work. We may need to talk about the custody agreement again if you can't recognize how your actions are hurting. We are ready to ask for primary custody because of emotional maltreatment. There was no sound in the room. I felt like I had been thrown into icy water. Because I wouldn't pay for their stepdaughter's summer camp or help them pay their rent, they were threatening to take my kids away. I said, Let me be crystal clear, in a calm manner. Even though I'm getting angrier, I have never and will never ignore my kids. I have given them every chance I could. I've been present for every key event in their lives. If you think differently, you better have proof other than the fact that I won't pay for Derek's kids to go to summer camp. Brittany smiled. We have a lot of proof that you don't want to help create a healthy blended family. These days, the courts take that very seriously. Something inside of me broke. Not in a rageful way, but in a way that is very plain. For years, I had been playing defense, attempting to keep the peace and holding my tongue. And for what? So they could try to get my kids? I rose up, quietly gathered my things, and stared Brittany straight in the eye. We're finished here. My lawyer can handle any more talks concerning custody. I left, my heart racing in my chest. I got to my car, closed the door, and sat there for a minute with my hands shaking. They were saying they would take my kids. My kids. I felt a strange mix of terror, anger, and, strangely enough, relief. It was a relief since the gloves were finally off. No more gray places. No more giving people the benefit of the doubt. I called twice from the parking lot. One to the greatest family law lawyer in the city and the other to my friend Phil, who works in digital forensics. I went into full stealth mode for the next month. Nothing changed on the outside. I kept the same schedule for picking up and dropping off the kids, was polite during those times, and didn't respond to any of Brittany's texts that were meant to get a rise out of me. I would grin, nod, and seem like everything was fine, but I was building a friggin' fortress in the background. Phil got back all the texts that Brittany and I had deleted over the past 3 years. Every threat, demand, and manipulative message was written down. I got together all the bills indicating what I had paid for the kids since the divorce. Everything. School fees, medical costs, extracurricular activities, and more. In my state, it's legal to record every pickup and drop-off chat with only one person's permission. I got the letter asking for rent and other written requirements. I had my lawyer write up affidavits from teachers and coaches describing how I was involved in the kids' lives. There is one afternoon that stands out. I was in the crowd at Declan's coding competition when I saw Derek and Brittany across the floor. They didn't notice me. While Declan was doing his project presentation on stage, I saw Derek check his watch over and over again, seeming bored. As soon as Declan was done, Derek rose up and started to leave, even though Brittany was still clapping. I filmed the whole episode on my phone. I even put a dash cam in my car that recorded conversations during pickups. I got great stuff like Derek telling the kids, "Your dad just doesn't understand how families work," and Brittany saying, "Maybe if we ask Santa, he'll convince your dad to stop being so selfish about the camp." My lawyer looked at the pile of evidence I gave her and started organizing it like she'd been waiting for this moment. No questions, no doubts, just get to work. She lined up all the receipts I kept and all the lines they crossed like chess pieces. I didn't need someone to cheer me on. I could tell by the way she walked. This case was strong, and they were about to find out just how wrong they were. After the kids went to bed, I would remain up late going through all the evidence and writing down anything I could remember from earlier talks. I would get so into it some nights that I wouldn't even notice it was 3 a.m. and I had to get up for work in 3 hours. I was operating on empty, but I had this deep need to protect my bond with my kids. There were definitely instances when I doubted myself, like when I woke up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat and wondered if I was being petty or if this would affect the kids in the long run. But then I would recall that I didn't initiate this conflict. Yes, they did. They said they would take my kids. You can't get back from that. At the same time, Brittany became more daring. She wrote me a formal email saying that her threats had worked and that I had to pay $8,500 for Lyra to go to a similar summer program to make things fair. I put the email right into my evidence folder. I didn't even bother to answer it. Then she started CCing her sister and mother on emails about the kids. This caused an echo chamber where they all replied to each other about how bad of a parent I was for not supporting the complete family. I liked the one from her mom the most. A real dad would want all the kids to have the same chances. You should be ashamed. I sent everything to the lawyer without saying anything. The big change happened when Declan texted me late one night. "Can I come over tomorrow instead of Friday, Dad? Derek and Mom are fighting about money again. Derek said you to be a man and help them out because they had to deal with your kids half the time." It felt like someone hit me in the chest with a baseball bat as I read those words. I was stuck with my kids like they were a burden. I took a screenshot of that text even though it pained my heart to use my son's message as proof. I got Declan early the next day. He told me in the drive that Derek stated I had a finer house since I don't have a true family and that I made Lyra weep by not paying for her camp. "Does that material disturb you?" I asked. He nodded. "It makes me feel like we're a problem, but I know we're not." That was it. The last straw. I filed for 70-30 custody with stringent rules about how we may talk to each other and all communication going through an app that the court was watching. My phone blew up when they got served. Calls, texts, and even her mom getting in on the action. I didn't say anything back. Brittany cornered me 2 days later. "Is this about the camp?" I told her straight out, "No. This is about you and Derek using our kids as weapons because I wouldn't pay for your life." She mumbled a weak denial. I told her to stop. Put it away for the judge. From now on, you can only talk to my lawyer or utilize the app. A week later, Derek tried to confront me in the school parking lot. He said the same old things about lawyers and called me selfish. I didn't even look at him. I just gestured toward the dash cam, which was capturing everything. That made him stop talking right away. He left without saying anything else. The weeks before the hearing were very stressful. Brittany started love-bombing the kids by giving them gifts out of the blue, taking them to amusement parks on school evenings, and allowing them stay up long past their bedtime. Tactics that have been used for a long time to make people feel alone. I wrote down everything, but I didn't tell the kids anything. In the meantime, I just kept everything going as usual. First, do your homework, then have fun. Kids require dull, predictable parenting like regular bedtimes and home-cooked meals. My lawyer told me what to expect. They'll say you're jealous of their happy family and want to dominate them. Don't fall for it. Let the proof do the talking. I was ready when I went to court 6 weeks later. The proof was clear. Texts, money requests, recordings, and even the kids' own words about feeling pressured. Brittany's lawyer looked nervous. The judge didn't like the excuses either. After reading the mail where Derek said my kids were a burden, I was really upset. Their plan to make me look recalcitrant backfired badly. The judge put an end to it, told me I didn't have to support kids who weren't mine, and said their threats were a clear example of manipulation. In the end, I obtained 70-30 custody, tight rules about how we could talk to each other, and official proof that I didn't owe anything for their so-called blended family. Plus, they had to pay all of my legal costs, the whole $14,380. I didn't feel like I had won when I left that courtroom. I finally felt like I had quit letting them make the rules. After the court case was over, I acquired a small, efficient house that was all ours and closer to the STEM Academy. I made a tech room for the kids so they could have their own place. On the first day, we constructed gaming rigs and stayed up way too late playing Minecraft. That night, we had pizza on the floor and sleeping bags. There was no furniture yet, but I felt more at ease than I had in years. From then on, all communication was through the parenting app. No bogus emergencies, no surprise texts, and no emotional blackmail. Brittany didn't like it. I didn't care. Now everything was on record. The kids did well. They were more calm and open. No more tiptoeing around. Zara even asked whether it was okay for her to be happy with me. I told her it always was. While they were unpacking, I had a delivery person bring the $14,380 legal bill to Brittany and Derek's house, with a statement that said, "My commitment is to my kids, not your lifestyle." Is that petty? Maybe. Needed? Of course. Declan and Zara did great at that tech camp. They were asked to come back as junior mentors. I sent the acceptance using the app. No comments, just results. Things are peaceful 6 months from now. At 13, Declan got into a top coding program. Zara's robotics team is going to the national competition. And what about me? Outside all the commotion, I finally remembered who I am. I am dating someone now. She works as a teacher. Smart, down-to-earth, and no drama. The first date seemed like a dream. No talk regarding custody. No emotional bombs. Merely a real chat, but it was the moment that made everything worth it. When we were coding, Declan looked up from his computer and remarked, "I'm glad you stood up to Mom and Derek. It was getting weird before." That's when I realized I had done the right thing. Not just for me, but for them too. I'm not simply getting by anymore. I'm alive, and no one is taking all my money.